All right, guys, welcome back to Endeavor. We're going to talk today about some gun stuff. Now, I've taken a couple of different courses with Rob Pincus, Todd Fossey, and a couple other ones, and watched plenty of videos on it. Craig Douglas does a lot of this stuff as well. But just got back from Charlotte and kind of reviewing, playing around with a couple different options for like in-close weapons access. So we're going to talk about those, but then the overall kind of the thing about this is going to be more about when to go for these things and when not to go for these things, right? So I personally carry appendix. Yes, I also commonly am wearing like tight hipster jeans and my like wannabe kind of like Buddy Holly glasses and a backwards hat. So this is technically how I am. I left my 511 pants at home. So, but as we kind of get into this, basic kind of principles, right? When we're talking about in-fight weapons access type stuff, is that I don't want him to have access to my gun, and I also need to be able to have access to my gun. So generally speaking, one of the things you'll hear is same side control as far as me trying to get there. So what I'm looking for is a couple of different options. The first one you can go through is just kind of a basic arm drag. And we'll actually turn this and reverse it so you can see it better. But one of the things we play with is just basic arm drag, right? If I get basic arm drag and I get my body pressure in nice and tight, I've controlled the arm closest to me, which is the one that would probably reach for my weapon. And I've also left this one free to be able to access my weapon, right? So really basic stuff. Now, I have to make sure that I'm able to hold and maintain this position. Generally speaking, wrestling with one arm is not exactly easy. So I want to be able to kind of overpower and drive as I'm driving into him, keeping him off balance, and making sure that if he's turning, I'm turning with him so that I maintain control of this position. But as we're turning and making that, I can go ahead, get my draw, I'll pull out, and then again from this position, you know, however you want to look at it, thumb index, thumb and mag weld, firing in C-zone, all that kind of shit. That's not what we're talking about today, as much as how do I get to position to be able to do that. And it might not even be my gun, it might be my knife, and I'm pulling my knife and I'm going and working from there. So based off the arm drag is one of the things that you'll commonly see in a lot of courses here. One of the other ones that we can work with, depending on the position of the setup, say he had control of my head, is a basic duck under. So I bring myself underneath the arm. Again, I'm running the hips in. Now, I can go to control. I can control hip, I control arm generally when I do a duck under. I want to be thinking about the fact that, okay, if I am going to weapons access and I do go to shoot, preferably, I would not like to be on the other side of my shots, especially if I'm going to miss them. So this might not be the greatest place for me to be, okay? Anybody can argue that all they want, it's fine. But, so I might want to go a high elevated position on the far side, or if I can end up over top of the head, then I can go ahead and I can do from that position as well, right? So basic duck under, but again, I'm solving the problem. I'm controlling the inside arm, controlling his ability to get to my weapon, but also leaving my side open to be able to work with that weapon as well. One of the things we started talking about was this idea that, okay, maybe he's got an underhook or he's in a position where he's controlling. Now, no matter what I'm doing, you know, we do a lot of clinch work and a lot of wrestling. So this position of having my head in and having wrist control for us is relatively normal and natural. But as long as I have pressure through here, one of the things I can start to look at is, again, passing this arm. And I can pass this arm a couple of different ways. I can push it down and do my arm drag just like normal. I can get to a position where I kind of swing outside of the arm if I want to. Or if he's got a pretty decent underhook position in here, what I can start to do is break that arm down super severe, bringing it across, and then that literally with just pressure might release it, or it might at least set me up for that underhook position. Now from here, I'm not exactly in a great position to go ahead and get the gun out. If I go right here and go to reach the gun, he's still got an arm over that he can interfere with my draw or get a hold of my weapon. So I would then, from this position, if I'm in, keep working my way around the body, bring myself back to that outside arm drag, pull the gun, again, stuff to play around with. Now we start working the opposite side, okay? Now if he's on this side, he's got really good access, especially for me because I carry appendix, he's got good access to the front. So even if he has his far side underhook, as we're going to wrestle, I'm controlling that hand into here. I don't want to go reaching for my gun. Again, basic principle and idea. Yes, I can reach my gun, but so can he, so that's not a good place to be. So as we go into this, one of the things that I stole this week, and I'm going to slaughter his last name because I'm terrible at it, but Jared Wihongi? Jared. Phenomenal thing he put on impact weapons. One of the things he was showing that was really cool is from this overhook position, if I can take the hand and feed the elbow, and now when I go to drive in, I have his arms tied up, and now I'm in a position where I can go weapons access. So another really good piece to kind of put into there. And again, we're doing this static, but it's going to be dynamic. He's going to be moving. I'm going to have to stay glued to him. It might be a not great position to draw from if you don't feel confident in it. We're going to talk about that a little bit more. Now, if I start finding myself doing the same things we did over here, but I'm doing it on this side, again, I'm not necessarily in a great position to get a hold of my gun just yet, right? And if I get to here and I go draw and I get that same exact tight position here, I'm not in a position to draw because now my drawing hand or my strong side hand is occupied. And unless you're gonna go fucking like Wild Wild West and do, you know, pinky shooting and stuff like that, which is not what we're looking for from a practical standpoint, this isn't a great place to be. So as I get to the far side, again, no matter how I'm doing, we're just showing you examples of this, but no matter where I'm at, if I'm here and I'm pulling around the hip, whatever it is, this isn't a good position to be in. So I wanna be able to control the arm. So one of the things we can get into, if I'm pulling on his arm, generally speaking, he'll want to kind of pull it back. I can go ahead and feed it across his body, and if I can get him in what we would refer to as a gift wrap, this is a pretty good position to work from. So I have the arm across his back, holding the arm. I can hold this in nice and tight. If I feel confident about my grip on the far side arm, I can run the hips in, I can clear garment, and then again, I can make my positions from there, right? So what you need to understand is this is all clinching and wrestling, and this isn't something where it's going to be like blatantly obvious. You have to spend time in here working and going through that. And the crew from Fit to Fight's putting out the program called Firearms, run by Todd Fossey. It's going to have a lot of this stuff into it, which is going to be phenomenal. But it's going to give you an opportunity to get in tight, learn that if we're in here and we're interacting and this is a deadly force situation, he's trying to draw a knife or a knife is already out and I'm fighting over a knife and I want to move to a position, you sure as hell better know how to fight in tight. Having your gun on you doesn't mean anything, right? If I can't get to it in this position, it's not gonna help me in any way, shape, or form, right? So look, a couple examples of how we played, but what I really want people to understand is if you're not in a dominant position to draw your firearm, don't draw your fucking firearm, right? We talked tonight in class about like, yes, there might be some Hail Mary situations where he's already stabbed me, you know, 10, 15, 20 times, and it's just, I'm literally last ditch, I'm fading, I'm losing things, I can't see straight, and I just kind of like draw the gun and hopefully something good happens. But if that's not the case and I'm still in some relative control, I don't want to have to draw my gun. Not even bothering to talk about yet the legal ramifications, moral, psychological, all that other kind of stuff. Just looking from a tactical standpoint, if I pull my gun before I'm confident in pulling my gun, then I'm not in a good position, he can get a hold of it. Even if I'm getting myself set up, let's say I do this awesome arm drag, and I train myself that, oh, every time I get an arm drag, I can go to access my weapon, and he just turns right back in because I did a shitty arm drag and gets a hold of my gun or stuffs my draw, that's not a good position. Especially if I was concealed and he didn't even know I had a gun, and I throw a half-ass arm drag and now all of a sudden I'm pulling at a gun, and he starts realizing like, oh shit, we've upped the ante on this. So the biggest thing I see when people train this quite often is that because they have a gun on, they focus on getting the gun out, and that's their only objective. Remember, the objective with anything you do, whether it's unarmed, knives, guns, anything, is to be safe, to get home safe at the end of the day, and that's it. It doesn't mean because you have a gun on, you pull your fucking gun. I pull my gun when it makes sense for me to pull my gun, when I have the opportunity to pull my gun, and when I know I can utilize that gun properly, safely, and within the legal limits of doing so. Same exact thing with a knife, same exact thing with strikes. I only use as much force as necessary if at all possible, right? So as we get into this, even if I get, boom, this awesome duck under and I feel really, really good about this spot, if I'm not super fucking confident that he is not able to turn his hips back in, draw his arm back out and start to fight again, don't start going and occupying your gun. Because while I'm messing around with the gun, if I threw this half-ass duck under, he turns back in, and now even if I do get that gun out, now he's got a hold of it, right? So long kind of look at, yes, there's a couple of different ways that you can get, you know, same side arm control, and here's some different places, and gift wraps and wrestling and clinching and stuff like that. But I don't anticipate anybody being able to, if you've never trained before, just show up and do this stuff, right? It takes time. You got to get in, you got to learn to wrestle, you got to learn to clinch, you got to understand deterrence and avoidance, and I don't want to draw my gun, and when do I draw my gun, and all the legal limits. Carrying this stuff is a huge responsibility. So a very, very long speech to tell you, hey, look, here's a couple of things that, yeah, I should know how to fight inside. Here's some clinch ways that you can get to a position to get weapons access. But the most important thing is you got to know how to fight. Whether it's from a distance or whether it's in close, you got to know how to fight. You have to train. You got to take your time to get in there. So there's a lot of really good people that run courses. I know Craig Douglas with ShivWorks does a lot of stuff. I think the ICE guys are still doing some of their ECQT stuff. Again, Todd Fossey is a phenomenal resource. He's working with the FTF guys. Jared had some great information this weekend at this past seminar. So seek these guys out, look at some of their videos, but train it. Train it, train it, train it. Know when to draw the gun, know when it makes sense. And yeah, so we'll see you guys next time.